Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hello, Jim.
Hi, David.
I'm such a nice guy, aren't I?
I know you are. You always are.
For those of you who may be joining us for the first time or are not with us all the time, you probably don't know this, but I flip Jim off like pretty much every time we start the show. During the countdowns, it goes 3, 2, there's the bird. Right? Okay. So that's why we always begin chuckling. And it's a recurring gag, and it's a whole thing. I'm going to preface this entire episode by saying I'm wound up. It's way earlier than we normally podcast, way later than we normally podcast in terms of the timeline.
The day.
Yes. And I'm fired up. So there's probably going to be some swearing. Just cover your kids' ears and don't listen to this place where you're going to get in trouble. Although I will try not to. Yeah. My nose is growing like Pinocchio.
Yes, and it will continue to grow.
Yes, I'm surprised you don't hear thumping against the microphone.
Oh, I'm telling you. So we got to talk. So I made a purchase this week. Yeah. I'm going to come up right in front with it. So I bought a Cyber, what do they call it? A Cyber Deluxe, and which is the baby brother to the Cyber Twin, and the beauty of the Cyber Deluxe. I want to say the beauty of it because it's not a horrible amp. It's all right. You got to remember it's really 1990s technology. They threw a little bit of difference in it. It came out in the 2000s, but it was like early 2000s, so it was all the leftover crap that you already developed. So what had happened was I saw an interview with an engineer on it, which I think I posted in the group. And in the interview, he talked about the fact that they wanted to make something that was a little more affordable than the Cyber Twin, which had the robot knobs, which were very expensive. And
the rotary faders and all that stuff on the actual piece of equipment.
But this is still a very expensive amp for them to have produced. And he talked about how every knob had its little sensor in every position, every potentiometer, all this other crap. And he went very much into detail how they improved the bass response in the speaker cabinet, all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Because of the fartiness of Fender amps and things like that. So they improved it. I'm not saying they did a great job. I'm just saying they improved it.
Well, they had to come to a middle ground. Like anybody who's used a Fender amp, you know that the low end on those can be like, it's big. It's a big sounding amp. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. I mean that like your bass expands and it's very expansive. So it's not tight and controlled.
Right. And so it can really get flubby, especially when you add a lot of distortion at bass, that low end. So anyway, I bought it and I got it for 150. Well, it was 150. It started out, then it became 160. It came 165 because the guy wanted $5 to drive it to Guitar Center. I was like, all right, whatever.
But you didn't pay it, did you?
But I didn't. I paid 160. So the point is that they regularly go in for about $300. So I got it for about $140 off. So I was all right with it. I was cool with the pricing. So long story short, though, it looks like a day one amp. It's beautiful.
Yeah, he showed it to me, and I did a double take, and I'm like, this has got to be somebody's like museum piece.
Yeah. So I got it from the original owner. Now here's the kicker. This is why we're going to segue into our next thing. The kicker is that originally this thing cost $1,300. $1,300.
Yep.
Now we talked about last podcast before, we talked about the digital amps or anything that you have that's digital or software wise, you're rolling the dice. This thing, obviously, you can't update it because it doesn't have the ability to update the software. But that's beside the point. The software is fixed. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, I don't even think those had a USB port on them, did they?
Nope, no USB. But they have a lot of stuff. I mean, you have so much control
emulated
of the back,
outs and
emulated left and right out, stereo. You could do 2 different things on each channel. It had a really the functionality of this thing is
it's the little brother of the
Cyber Twin.
The Cyber Twin, which we've talked about on the show before. The Cyber Twin was kind of a failed experiment by Fender. They built this, the Twin was always their flagship. And they built the Cyber Twin in the impression that, like, oh, everybody wants a 2x12, so we'll build this giant studio amp, which kind of didn't make sense. But I guess, I mean, it's to do it all, right? Like, that's kind of the way that they looked at it. It was like Swiss Army knife. You get your Fenders, your Marshalls, your boxes, all in the same package.
Yep.
And it's loud enough to gig with and good enough for the studio.
That's right. And it was. And it's actually a decent amp. Cyber Twins are decent amps.
I remember reading recently about a studio that actually used, and they're still using, a Cyber Twin as like one of their primary amplifiers in the studio.
Yeah.
Now, there's a whole lot of stuff in the architecture of the Cyber Twin that is different than digital amps at that time. And that is that I believe they had like an FET gain stage up front. I believe there was like, there was actually analog gain stages in it. And it was literally the digital part of this was a controller that actually switched relays to actually forward the signal through the various analog components that were inside the amp.
That's correct.
Whereas it really wasn't doing processing. Like in a typical, like my Kemper, right? My guitar signal goes through a buffer in the front of the Kemper. It goes to a DA converter. Once it hits a DA converter, then it goes to the DSP. And the DSP is doing all of the work. So it gets signal in, it reads it out, it turns it into ones and zeros. Well, actually, the DAC does that, but it turns into ones and zeros, and then it does a conversion the other way and sends out as analog signal. So it's all handled by a microprocessor. In this, there is a microprocessor in it, and it gets used for certain things. But they're doing like this hybrid hodgepodge thing, which is actually more akin to what Tech 21 does.
Right. So with this, the guy was talking about that exact same thing. So with the Cyber Twin, the only thing that was digital, like you said, was the controls. They had to have digital controls, the software to control the digital movement of the switches, and a little bit, I guess, in the relay. Or I mean, not relay, delays. But the amplifier itself was analog. This is a similar technology. So what they did was they had this whole thing, the gain stages and everything is all analog. Mm-hmm. And then the only thing digital, the guy was saying, is the effects were digital. And then it gets shot out to this virtual tube amplifier that then has all this this technology that makes it supposedly sound like. And I got to be honest with you, as we all know, all it is really changing the mid, the frequency band, where the frequency band lies, and that's really all it is. That's all that a lot of them do. And the other thing that they did with this, the Cyber Twin, people didn't like the tuner, so with the Cyber Deluxe, they went with a full like sweeping tuner type.
Yeah, instead of the. Right, and I forget exactly how the Cyber Twin was set up, but I've actually played a Cyber Twin since we talked about it on the show, and I didn't think they were awful. I mean, I don't think so. The prices they're going for now is equivalent to like what you would pay for that technology now, right? So like, that's kind of interesting when you think about it. Like, I'm shelling out like $200, but I'm getting a Cyber Twin, but the Cyber Twin is roughly equivalent to like what you would buy for $200 now. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Right.
Now.
Correct.
Here's the weird part about these amps, and this is the thing I would warn our listeners about, is these amps are notorious for having mechanical problems.
Yeah, the Cyber Twins.
Both of them are. But there's a lot fewer of yours, so the track record's better.
Yes.
So if you come across one of these and it's in really good shape, like it might be a cool amp to have around. I don't know that I would take it to a gig and like plan on betting the farm on it.
No, this is for rehearsal. This is for me to leave it in rehearsal space and
bang away on it and have fun while you have it.
Where this right now, it's a museum piece. It doesn't have a lick of dust on it.
Yeah.
I have the dishes in my cabinet, which are quite clean, have
They
more
are
dust
very clean.
than this thing has. I pulled stuff out of the dishwasher that's dirtier than this. I mean, that's how spotless this is. And I asked the guy, because I looked at the foot switch, who looks had never been used. He goes, "Well, I tried
figure it out.
I didn't care." And he's an older guy. He's even older than I am, which means really old. And he said to me, "I just found a channel and I left it."
Now case in point on this, though, and this is good information for our listeners too. Mm-hmm. So the Cyber Twin and the Cyber Deluxe, as I recall, many people who were not ingrained in digital amplification, like this was their first experience with it, because I remember there weren't really that many other competing products when this came out.
Yeah, you had Flex Tone and something from Digitech.
The Flex Tone one. There was the Axis 212, and then there was the Digitech RP1, I think.
Yeah, the Johnsonville or something like that.
Oh yeah, the J Station.
J Station, thank you. Yeah, that's it.
But that was a total emulator. That really wasn't an amp. Like I could see, I could see this being like the first thing that a lot of people plugged into. Yeah. But what got people about it was the Cyber Twin itself. Now, not this amp that you're playing, but the Cyber Twin itself. It was really complex.
Yes,
and they knew it, which is why they put rotary controls and things on it, because they knew that if you switched settings, you had to be able to see what was going on in the front panel, because otherwise they weren't going to get buy-in, and they didn't get buy-in. And that's part of the reason why Fender, like, largely just said, no, we're just going to keep selling tube amps for another 5-6 years.
Yeah, they didn't really come back into the tube amp, digital thing until, what was the one before the Mustang? It was the... I
don't know, but there's the Super Champ, and that's what I'm familiar with in terms of their digital.
Super Champ.
They had the Mustang,
and then there was another one that was before the Mustang that was
They had the Vibro Champ XD and the Super Champ XD, which were part of the Vintage Modified series. But you're probably right. It's probably the Mustang and the G-Deck.
G-Deck.
But
that's actually a good little amp.
But it was not aimed at professional musicians. It was aimed at people learning to play music.
Bedroom players, literally under 20, or 20 years old. That's
great piece of gear for marketing purposes. Like if you're a first-time guitar player and you walk out with a G-Deck, you have rhythms in it. You have, you of course have your tuner and all that stuff. It was basically the equivalent of a keyboard player's like first keyboard, right? The one with the light up keys and all that. Like that's what it was. Yep. And honestly, I think a lot of companies could benefit from having a product like that. But nevertheless, those products have kind of like disappeared for the most part. I mean, I know there's still some stuff out there that's very
the G-Deck is actually. I mean, I'd be honest. If I found a G-Deck in the same type of, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I don't think it's loud enough though. G-Deck is quiet.
No, I'd have it for in here.
Oh yeah, just playing around the house. Sure, I could see that.
Leave it in the living room or leave it in a bedroom.
So this brings us into this other piece of gear that Fender's announced.
This new piece of gear that Fender's got. It's called the Tonemaster. Now, first of all,
there's more than one. It's a series of things. Right.
So there's actually two right now. I don't know how many they're going to go to, but there's two right now. So they have one that's a Cyber Twin Tonemaster.
It's a twin.
Tonemaster Cyber Twin.
Twin reverb.
Twin. So the Tonemaster Twin reverb and the Tonemaster Deluxe reverb.
Yeah, and that basically, as you can probably surmise, these amps are a twin. It's about 75 tube watts in terms of volume. Yeah, and a deluxe reverb that's at about 22 watts in terms of tube volume.
Right. So now, here's the problem I have. Okay, so the sales pitch for this thing is, hey, you don't have to take out your tube amp, which means you don't have to worry about banging the tubes around. Okay, that's a good thing. And it's lighter, which
much lighter.
Twin is like 23 pounds lighter than the.
Oh, you did your research because I didn't know the actual numbers, but I knew it was about 20 pounds.
Tonemaster is about 23 pounds lighter, and the Tonemaster Twin is about 23 pounds lighter, and the Tonemaster Deluxe is in the 18 pounds, because obviously
it's like between 18 and 15 pounds lighter. And there's some variants because the cabinets are wood. So.
Right, because the cabinets are made of wood, and they made the cabinets. I think that the thing that will sell. But I'm gonna quote somebody in a few minutes here. But the thing that will sell them is they look identical. The only difference is there's a little tag
Tonemaster badge,
and that says Tonemaster, my understanding is you can just pull it off.
I was just gonna say
it's like a sticker.
It's very removable.
Yes. Very removable, easily removed, so people don't look down on you, because God knows everybody's looking down on you if you don't have an actual. No, nobody knows what that is,
Well,
except for the other guitar players.
Do you know? This is going to sound awful, but you know where that's useful, right? Churches.
Yeah, churches.
Because if you're playing if you're guesting in another church and the guitar player comes up and goes, "You got a solid state amp," kind of. Which, in this day and age, if you have somebody that has an attitude like that. I would.
You don't belong.
I know
anyway.
it's a church, but I would just take him out back and flip him off.
Yeah, or I tell him to blow it out his anus. So, the notice I did not use a bad word. That is a physical description.
I said I would take them outside of the church first.
That's right. So I would do it right in front of everybody. But anyway, so that's why I don't get invited back. So the amp. That's in question. So Pete Thorne was asked about this because I made some comments. Pete Thorne said the exact same thing I did. It looks the same, but it's the same price as a used version of the same exact amp that you can get all day for the same money or less.
Yeah, or slightly less, right? Yep. And in a more desirable configuration.
So which one do you think you're going to buy? Are you going to pay $1,000 for one that's got a resale probably of maybe $600
right now. And it's not going to go up.
But that's exactly that ties back to this amp. This amp was $1,300. It has a resale value of about $3,000. It's lost $1,000 in resale.
Yep.
Do you really want to jump on an amp that's going to have probably $300 to $400 in resale in the next couple of years, if you're lucky? If you're lucky.
I have had this happen to me. I bought it was $1,100. I bought an $1,100 digital amp back when they were first coming out, right? Like the Flextone 3. And when I sold that thing 7 or 8 years later, I got $150 for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't sell it to a music store. I couldn't get anyone to take it.
No, music stores wouldn't take the Flextone. I had the same thing.
It wasn't even that. I couldn't get, on a private sale type thing, I was like, make me an offer. I didn't even list a price. So make me an offer. No reasonable offer will be refused. And my reasonable offer after 3 weeks was $150.
In the 90s, no, I'm sorry, in the early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, 2005, 2006, I decided to get rid of my Flextone 2. I took it to a music store. They said, line 6. We don't even take line 6.
Yeah, And you'll get that stuff though, and I've heard the same thing said about Squires and stuff.
That was the mom and pop. That was the mom and pop time before Guitar Center.
Yeah,
and
now they won't turn anything away.
Yep. But at that time, I can tell you right now, they wouldn't even look at a line 6. They said line 6 pedals, nope. Line 6 amps, nope. We don't want anything.
Most mom and pops don't take pedals around here.
But the fact is, let's face it. There isn't any money to be had in that line 6 amp. And if I'd have sold it to him, he told me, he said, even if I could take it in, Jim, I'm going to have to give you so little for it. I feel like I'm insulting you.
It's like a kick in the nuts.
What am I going to give you? $80 for it? $60 for it? It's going to sit here forever and not sell?
Nobody needs a kick in the genitals.
No. And so that's right. I was talking about my bag of nuts. I had a bag of nuts with me, and he said I'd kick in the nuts.
Oh, I was talking about genitals. That's fine.
It was peanuts.
It's fine.
So, had a whole sack.
Whole thing. So the Tonemaster for me. So look, this is marketed to somebody like me, right? So I really, really dig blackface amps. I don't own one anymore. I had a Princeton for a while. It's just not practical for the condo situation. Right. And I see these things come along and I'm like, this is actually a really cool concept. And I was super, I saw them drop and I saw the price difference and I'm like, what is this? Is this like an import version of the big boys, right? And I went to go look and then that's when I realized they're digital. And I went, okay, I get what it is, right? I'm like, this is something that people have suggested they'd actually like to see, which is digital versions of tube amps, right?
Right.
But the problem here is this thing is $900 for the twin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Is it?
It's $1,000. It's $999.
Yeah. So let's stop
Close
and
enough.
think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend $999 to get an approximation of something I can buy used for between $700 and $900.
That's right. And here's a funny story for you. About 4 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, a friend of mine stumbled across a early Silverface, which was actually right. It was Blackface first, then Silverface.
Yeah, but the Silverface twins. So the value on those is real weird. And I'll tell you
because
why.
you got to get the right year. Exactly.
Right year. There's only like 2 right years.
That's right. 68
Yeah.
and 69. So in 68, he got a 68 I keep saying Cyber, a 68 twin reverb Silverface for, which was right when his serial number was like, within a few of when they were black.
They consider it like drip edge or something. That's a whole
and
thing.
what it was is in those first 2 years, people who may not be aware, in those first 2 years, they hadn't actually switched the circuitry and CBS taken over. So they were pretty much blackface with a silver face. Silver face.
Yeah, the AB763 like line of circuits and all that stuff, right?
So what happened is, anyway, he bought this, and the guy said, "Yeah, it doesn't work." Blah blah blah. He brought it in, had it tubed. It works great.
Yep.
So he got a 68 for like $600. Now he got a 68 for $600, and what? $150 in tubes. I'm just saying. Even if he bought really good tubes, $200.
You can buy right now. You can go and you can buy right now with a super reverb, right?
Yep.
For like, and I'm talking a vintage super reverb for between $700 and $800. Yeah. And highly desirable, right? Because the super reverb, even the Silverface ones, like they didn't really change the circuit that much. And the reason why I bring this up is because that, to many people, is the holy grail. But the reason you can buy them is because they're not practical, right? So like there is something to say about the fact that these are lighter weight, but I think these are the wrong amps to be making lighter weight in terms of the deluxe. That's why everybody buys them.
Right. And here's the other thing I'm going to say about this. So they're not being made in the States.
No. Well, and you know what? Fender has already made that clear. That doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not saying
I'm just saying that's the way they feel about it.
Right. What I'm saying is they're not made in the States, so don't tell me that's what's brought up the price. The amp modeling technology has already been done because they do it in the Mustangs. That's not the reason for the price. You tell me the reason for the price. They think the reason for the price, this is my assumption, is they think the reason for the price is because they went out of their way to model the look of the amplifier, right down to it is exactly the same size, exactly the same face, exactly everything.
That in and of itself, like, look, I haven't had hands on one of these yet, but I will tell you this. Tonally, right? So what they've claimed they've done, and this is what you're paying for, is they took all of their resources that they've used in other DSP products, and then they built a model that is like really, really good of the amps that they're, modeling. Now, this is why I'm kind of like shaking my head. Fender's not known for this. Okay?
Nope. They haven't been good at it yet.
And they didn't publish any of the specs that you would want to see to kind of get a feel for how much DSP is required to make this thing do what it does.
Right.
My inclination here is that they took like maybe a step above Mustang guts, because those are the developers they have, right? So I'm not trying to say that this is a bad thing. The same platform that is probably has a higher end chipset. So if it's a Shark DSP, there's probably a higher end Shark DSP that they pulled out and they said, okay, we're going to use this to develop because we're familiar with the code base. And this is what we're going to do to make a really high end modeling product. And then they spent a long time doing the model, right? Which is okay. And I will admit, I've heard the clips. I can't tell the difference in the clips. I honestly can't. But that doesn't change the fact that there will still be a mindset bias on this product. And that is the biggest thing that all of these digital companies face. Look, I've shown my Kemper like in various gear groups and stuff, and I've seen people say like, well, you spent way too much money on something that doesn't have tubes in it. And that kind of I get it. There's a bias, there's a confirmation bias and all this stuff, and it's fine. I'm comfortable with it. I don't care whether you like it or not. I'm gonna be real here. I have not plugged in my Mark V except to profile it since I bought my Kemper. What does that say? I have a $1,500 plus tube amp and a $500 cabinet sitting, right?
Yep.
My Kemper, when I plug it in, most of the time, I have used my cabinet quite a bit, but most of the time, it's spitif into my PreSonus interface through my JBL monitors on my desk here. Because I'm playing with jam tracks and that kind of thing. Like, there's no reason for me really to grab my cabinet and make this big stack over in the corner of gear. I don't need it. So this product, I think, would have been better suited at a lower price point, right? And they could sacrifice some of the tonal characteristics. I know people are going to like, oh, that's blasphemous heresy. They could make it not sound quite as good, cut the price by, not providing such a great model, right? Cut the price a little bit, and they could have sold a lot of these. Because I know that there are people out there, like I've done it. I walked into a store one time, I was going to buy a Supro. I picked up the Supro and I went, put it back down. And because the Supro was a lot heavier than I anticipated it would be. Like I was thinking it's a 1x12, right? Like this isn't going to be heavy, but big transformers and all.
It closes in at 60 pounds. Yeah.
Well, the Supro I picked up, I think, was not Super Reverb, but Supro.
Supro.
Supros are 75, or Super Reverbs are like 75 pounds. They come with wheels on them.
I know.
So the Supro I was looking at, it's like 1x12 combo, and it weighed, I want to say like 40 pounds, like 38 pounds. Yeah. It was heavy. And I was like,
about what a 1x12 DeVille is.
Yeah. So I just back off. Like these are Neo speakers. Like that's great. I'm glad to see people are starting to get into those kinds of technologies, especially for speakers. Actually, I really like the sound of the Neo creambacks. And I'm glad to see that there's some innovative things going on here. I think Fender in another 3 or 4 years is going to have a product like this at a lower price point that'll be really, really successful.
So here's my take on it that I want to say. If you're only modeling one amp, you don't really need that much more processing power. And I
think you might be right. I do. I don't know for sure.
I'm just saying, you're only worried about modeling the amp. You're not really worried about modeling anything beyond reverb because they don't come with delay. They don't come with you're in other words, the processor that you're using in an amp that's like, it'll do 17 different. It's just like a Windows computer versus a Mac. A Mac can have a smaller processor and yet do more because of the software.
I'm going to stop you because it's nothing like an x86 chip. Like that's where that whole argument ends completely. I know. But they're so
it's machine code.
No, it's not just that. Like I want to back up and I want to try to give our listeners an understanding of what DSP actually is versus like a computer processor. Because I see this in groups. And I think this is a worthwhile discussion to have. So in a computer microprocessor, it is a very flexible piece, right? Like it does a lot of different things, and
what they call function codes.
Yeah, it has. There's that, but it also it's made so that it can have like multiple tasks going on at once and those kind of things.
Right.
DSP is far more limited in the sense that its primary function is to take a signal, do something to it very quickly, and then in and out. And so that's why you have in like the Helix, you have this limitation on how much stuff you could actually do with it because it has to do with the latency. Like the more tasks you add up, when your microprocessor, when you are in your computer, when you're playing a video game, how long does it take you to put your input in and get data back? It's in milliseconds. So it's a similar concept, but an on and off from your keyboard is a lot different than processing a real-time signal. So
an analog signal.
So in that sense, DSP has to be like a lot more powerful and it has to be a lot more focused on the task it does. So I can understand like if they have a really complex model that's doing some very crazy stuff to the signal that's coming through it, that they will need a more powerful DSP to do that. However, I will say, knowing coders the way I do and people that I work with, and I'm not disrespecting anybody that I work with or anybody that I've seen their work, I know that coding can often be It's bloated. Yes, and I have a feeling that they probably could do what they're doing right now with a really good, middle of the road DSP and just really good programming. I don't know what kind of programmers they have over there. And then you get into the whole thing of like, oh, everybody's going to have a spec matchup with like my processor runs at this megahertz and this, and that actually doesn't necessarily matter in DSP
mean
chips.
anything. No, So we talk about the I/O. It's kind of like David was explaining. So if you take the input and output of the device, it's more like, I don't want to say it's exactly like, but it's more like what your video card is doing and what your audio cards are doing, and so on and so forth. So it's a completely different kind of card, which is why people were using video cards to farm what's that currency?
Bitcoin.
Yeah. because their I/O is so much faster. So do one thing and do it fast. So they have a small. That's again where you get into a limited function code set. There's a smaller set of instructions. They call it an instruction set.
Yep.
That it can do, but they're very fast. And so the thing that makes an the IO or the DSP better is the fact that it can pump that stuff in, do that limited set of functions
and reliably.
Exactly, and reliably, and pump that back out to the final end. Now, so I'm gonna say that's why I said they're not processing reverb. They're not processing. They're processing reverb, but that's where it ends. And even if they're not using, which I bet you they're using if they're doing it right, they're using an analog reverb. So really, the only thing they're processing,
it's a digital
digitally.
reverb. It is a digital reverb.
That's
There's
insane.
no tank because the tank weighs a lot.
Oh, that's right. That's another thing that would save it in weight. The tank. Okay. So they take away the tank. Then they're processing reverb, but they don't have to process distortion. They don't have to process they can do the gain stack without
they're doing it all digitally. Like maybe they have an FET input, but I'm reasonably certain the rest of it's all done in the digital domain. And we know that, dude, we've played digital amps that we know that this technology is possible, and it's possible at low price points. The Katana, right. I know that there are people in our group that don't like the Katana, but the Katana does a very good job of emulating the feel of a tube amp. It wouldn't take a whole lot more, and I stress this. I think Boss is really kind of to blame for the Katana not being as realistic sounding as it could be, because I don't think they have as good developers over there. Their digital effects, with the exception of their delays and reverbs and some of their modulations,
are not that good.
Never really been that good.
Yeah.
And this is indicative of the same team that designed that stuff. And I know it's heresy. I'm a big Boss fan. For me to say that, like, I don't really like some of their distortions and overdrive products because they've in the past made digital ones that did not sound good.
Well, they did make one of the best distortions in the world, and that's the Metal Zone.
They've made many good distortion pedals. I have one sitting over here. I have one sitting up there. I know. I'm just teasing you.
I have a Metal Zone. Mine has been relicked. So,
I have a Keeley modded DS1.
Too. Oh, I don't have a Keeley modded.
Well,
DS1,
it's not.
I do have.
Keeley didn't mod it, but it's got the Keeley mod in it.
Oh. And I do have a Wampler modded blues driver, as I've said many times. But the point is that, to me, I just don't think. I think they could have dropped the price more. If they
should have.
I think if this thing was ranked around $500-$600, I think it'd be flying off the shelves.
Well, that's where I was actually going with this discussion about like what this actually is and the coding and all the stuff that's involved in it. Look, when you make a digital product, most of your price is recouping the development cost,
the R&D.
And in this case, like, they could have lowered the price, sold them like hotcakes, and recouped their development cost at a slower rate, but ultimately had a very successful product.
I think it could outsell the Mustang any day of the week at $500-$600.
I've done a lot of thinking on this, and you know what this product actually is? This is testing the water. That's what this is. They want to see if there's a market for this at all. They're looking and they're monitoring the buzz behind this product, not just whether it sells or not, but whether people are talking about it and thinking about whether this is a good thing. And I would not be surprised if in the next couple of years, we see another version of this amp, not with the Tonemaster label, right, with something else that maybe has one or two extra functions that they're not putting in here. Because we didn't even talk about the direct outs and all that stuff. That's cool. You can take a look at it. Honestly, I don't think most of the people that are looking to buy these amps are that interested in
Our
direct
DI
out.
out.
But it's there if you are interested in it.
It did sound good. The Andertons video did show that it's a really good DI. I've got to give them that.
I am all for having those level of sounds in a compact package that is low weight. I'm absolutely for it. I don't think I'm not going to buy the Twin. I would never buy that Twin. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what, Jim? Like you did, 10 years from now when these things are like peanuts, it might be worth it.
Grab it.
Because they're going to... Dude, a 20-pound deluxe reverb? Are you kidding me? Yeah. Now, here's my big caveat on this, right? All of the videos I've seen so far, not running pedals through it. And that has been the make or break for me in so many cases. And of course, I'm going to tell you the Kemper takes pedals really well. The Helix takes pedals decently, not quite as good as the Kemper, but I cannot buy a digital product that I cannot push pedals through.
Right.
Can't.
That's correct.
Now, I think Andertons did do some pedal stuff in their video.
They did.
But I zoned out. Stuff. Like, Andertons videos are too long. It's really easy for me to just be like, ooh.
They are. Those jammed in and jam outs, and then the middle thing and the talk. It does get kind of, it does start to get weary. I don't think I've watched
any of their videos under 30 minutes in like forever in a day. It's been pretty crazy. So
it's crazy. So here's my take, and then you can, I think if they'd have come out, here's what I would have done to test the water. I would have said, you know what? Let's make this, but let's put one together for the, and I know this is going to sound wacky, but follow me with us. Let's make one of these, but let's make it for the Blues Junior. Let's put out a Blues Junior that's digital. I know you're going to say what, but think about it for a minute. If you could put out the Blues Junior digitally, and you could match. The only problem people have with the Blues Junior is not the tone. A lot of people love the tone of the Blues Junior. That thing is a staple in a lot of people's stuff. The problem with the Blues Junior is it's still $600. It's
also hard to say.
And it is hard to say. And it you could just say the initials, but
that's even worse.
But the Blues Junior is to me. If I was going to do this, I'd go either to the Blues Junior or the Deluxe, and I'd say, okay, let's get a amp out there that tests the water in a little more like a $300 or $400 category. That's a one-stop shop that looks the same, has the same power stuff, does the same thing.
You might be right there, but I think the power and the attractiveness of the Blues Junior is not the sound of it. I think it's the price, because I know. When I was looking at them years ago, it was like, I can buy a tube amp for like, and back then, I'm dating myself, they're like $350, you know, and I'm actually kind of like in the market for something like that now, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy one. But if I saw one used for $250 or something, like I would probably jump on it.
Because to me, that's a price point of a Blues Junior.
Yeah.
Right around $250 to $300.
Yeah,
that's it.
And the first thing I do is rip that speaker out, throw it in the garbage, and put a greenback in it, because I cannot stand the speaker that's in those things. And I like low wattage speakers for bluesy stuff, and that's probably what I would use it for. So
exactly. You got a 25-watt speaker in there versus the... What have they got in that thing?
But, amps are totally useless to me now anyway. Like, I just talked about the fact that I got a Kemper. I don't plug anything in anymore. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But be that as it may, there's another digital product that has been sailing around the internet. Well, it's been laying on the ground, and then big tank treads have been rolling over it on the internet repeatedly for the last couple of weeks.
We've got to talk about the elephant in the room.
Elephant.
We said we weren't going to talk about our friends at what do you call it? At Gibson, but
no. So this isn't about Gibson, right? So like,
it's really not.
I'm actually going to kind of come to their defense a little bit on this. I know people are going to get mad at me, but I want you to hear the rational side of what I'm going to say. And Jim, you can butt in or whatever. But basically, this, like, I see this video, right? And my initial gut reaction was the same with everybody else. I'm like, dude, they could have given these guitars to somebody or something, but I didn't know a whole lot about the Robot X. Like, I knew it was a $5,000 guitar that, like, didn't go anywhere because it had the robot tuners and stuff. What I didn't know when I started digging in was that it had, like, the 3 band sliders in the side of the guitar, and it had they had the Minitune system or whatever they were calling it at that time.
Yep.
And it had the version where the control was in the body, so there was a wire or a strip or something that ran all the way up the guitar through the neck to the headstock. Which means if you get any corrosion, your neck is toast, right? Of course, it's set neck construction. It has that bowling ball finish, which that's what I called it. It looks like a urethane.
That's the only thing that was
swirly
cool.
finish. Yeah, I like that, but I don't think that should have been on a $5,000 guitar. No. And the other thing is the controls were like highly proprietary. It was Bluetooth and USB. It was an old version of Bluetooth. The software was quickly deprecated for it. You had to have foot controllers to go with this thing, which were like totally proprietary. You weren't going to get a replacement for this.
Foot controller broke or your foot controller had a problem.
Yeah, I saw this and I go, this is a $5,500 paperweight in 3 years. After I watched the video, so I made my initial reaction video, which was like, this is really sad, and then I completely deleted it like right away, and I went, wait a minute, because I watched this video and I'm like, this is ridiculous. You can't refurbish these and give these to people. You can't even even in their current condition, like if they were fully working, which they probably were. If they were fully working and you handed these to somebody, they were already trash because they were out of date. Things didn't work on them to begin with, like the tuning
from
system.
the beginning.
So I mean, this is not the kind of thing that you want to do that. Now, you could say when did these come out? They were like, what, 2013, 2014?
Yeah, I want to say it was 2011, but it might have been later.
Yeah. So when these guitars showed up, right? If Gibson had done the smart thing and realized that the initial reaction to these was bad and they did their buyback, if they had taken them in and immediately made changes like, okay, we're going to install conventional electronics, we're going to fill up the cavity, we're going to refinish the guitar so nobody can tell, and we'll sell them as a factory second. Or I don't advocate they do that because I think that's the wrong message too. It's like, here's a $5,500 guitar that we refurbish, call it a factory second, and sell it as a Gibson. What they should have done is just strip the branding from them completely. They should have filled them in with whatever and put regular old electronics in them and just shipped them out immediately after they got the BIC in. Because here's the problem. So Gibson makes a $5,500 guitar, and I'm sure a lot of that was development costs for the DSP and software that's in them, that's a whole part of this discussion. Same feeds into the original discussion about
the with the Fender thing.
So they're trying to recoup their costs, which is why it's $5,500. That's why they're not flame tops. They don't have these insane finishes like going on. It's very like bare bones, minimalistic thing. And then you sell these turds, right? And nobody wants them. So they buy them back. And then here's what really actually happened. So Gibson bought back, and I've heard this number said over and over. They bought back like 95% of the line or something. In other words, they sent them out and they sold less than 5% or something. And then they bring them back and they sit on them. And now, if these guitars, I don't know what year they came out in, if they come back in 2011, that's warehouse space that they are sitting in. It is now 2019. It is 8 years later, and they're running them over with a bulldozer. And everybody's freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, this is all this money they're just destroying. Listen, it's way more money than you think it is because they're paying to keep these in a climate-controlled facility with no intention of ever doing anything with these guitars. These guitars should have been shredded almost immediately after they were brought in order to recoup any sort of loss that was going to go on here. So instead, they probably doubled the cost of these instruments. Which means, now, charitable donations aside, right? Like, so everybody thinks that's a great idea. It totally is because it's a great tax write-off for Gibson if they do it. However, coordinating charitable donations for this would probably cost them more money than they would make back on the write-off.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little charitable donations thing because all these guitar players, it's like, you should have given them to charity. First of all, they were garbage, okay? So that's like, hey, you know what? I got this leftover Taco Bell bag. You want it? Because I didn't eat
Here's a Stratocaster with no frets and pickups in it. Here, you want that?
It's freaking trash. All right, so they don't want your trash. That's number one. Number two, I want to tell you a little story about Eddie Van Halen. You might have heard of him. He's some guitar player.
I'm not familiar.
Did something in some band.
Too long.
I can't remember
listen.
the name. It was like Van Hagar or something. I don't know.
Whatever.
So
he sounds unnotable.
You guys can tell I'm a little fired up right now. So Van Halen goes to a charity and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to give you some guitars." You know, the charity told him, "We don't want them. We don't want them. We need money, not your guitars." So you know what so do I. I support the new Gibson. So so Eddie Van Halen went on a show and said, "Hey, I'm going to give him money."
Mm-hmm.
And he still gave guitars, but he gave a lot smaller number than he initially had started. He gave money instead on the top. Now, Robert Jackson has come out and said, because he does
he's involved with an organization
and he
that
said
does
that
this.
Most of the time they prefer money because they need to get stuff that the kids can use. I'm going to go to another person. Philip McKnight said the same thing, that though he was involved with a lot of these donation companies, they prefer cash to actual instruments. So stop getting into this stuff. Now, then somebody said, because I saw Ryan Burke, and Ryan Burke, by the way, you did ask a very legitimate question. Would people be willing to buy them for $200 a piece if that money was going to charity? Here's the thing. And
I would have.
If I had a penny, if I had a penny for everybody that said, "Well, Taylor, if you'd have been still building electrics, I'd be buying them." And Bill Taylor said, "Well, you didn't, so shut up."
Yeah, well, the difference,
and I had to trash
but the difference is Bob Taylor did not sell his guitars for $350.
No, he didn't.
So you automatically negate your own argument there, though.
No. But I'm saying that he's not the only one. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that will they talk.
I've heard it from I've heard it from PRS. I've heard it from Bob Taylor. I've heard it from other builders. But the point is, your product is $3,000. It's not $300. If you,
I know. But let me finish. And that is that a lot of people start running their mouths until their wallets get involved. And then it's like, wait a minute, no, I can't. I don't have that. I'm not talking about Bill Taylor said I'll sell them for charity. I'm talking about him saying that he'd sell his guitar. You know, they want him to bring it back in line.
That's my point, though, Jim. Is that you're making a comparison of two different things. Charity is a yes, you are. Charity is a motivator for purchasing. It is. I know somebody locally who has a company that actually does they sell a product. I don't want to plug their product on the show because I know that there's some other things going on there, but they sell a product that a portion of the proceeds go to charity, right? And it's like 50% or 75%. So it's a very significant portion of the proceeds. However, they're pocketing quite a bit of money too. And the reason why I won't promote on the show is because I think they should be giving a lot more to charity because I know what the cost of the product is, which is basically nothing. What I would like to see is a comparison where, so Paul Reed Smith comes out of the woodwork and says, we watched Gibson destroy all these guitars. We're going to sell SEs at $500 off in honor of the fact that Gibson couldn't do this, and we're going to donate that $500 to charity. Like, we're going to put it out of our pocket and put it in a charity. That would be a whole other situation because it's a motivator. I work in an association, and that's a big part of our foundation. People will overpay at auction for the item they're buying because they know it's going back into our foundation.
Well, of course. I mean, somebody overpaid for David Gilmour's guitar because they knew the money was going to charity.
Right. Well,
well, let's just say that I bet you that guitar wasn't going to go for $4 million.
Probably.
3.9 something million. My point is this, that what Gibson did was not for public knowledge.
No.
They didn't do it publicly. Those guitars sat for years, over a decade.
A lot of the people thought this had already happened.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not quite a decade. It was 2011 they came out, so they've been probably sitting for 6 or 7 years. But the point is, nobody wanted them. Nobody was making offers. Nobody said, hey, let's do nothing. And Gibson had to buy all those things back. And they legally...
if they've already wrote them off, they have to destroy them.
Yeah, this video was not made for public consumption. This video was made, people who don't know why, it was made to legally be able to go to, if the IRS said, hey, you've still got those in a warehouse, you could still sell them. Gibson said, no, we can't. We destroyed them. So they had to have a video that was given to some construction company or whatever.
Right.
And they had fun with them. And the fact is that the close-up where the guy switches the knob is just to show it was a real thing, because he wasn't going to close up all whatever. It looked like close to 900 guitars sitting there.
Well, I think my only.
I did have to laugh about another thing though before I forget. So Ryan Burt goes, I didn't see a single broken headstock yet.
And then then
one breaks.
Like it's stuck in the treads. Yeah, it was great.
But that was pretty funny. But actually, I was surprised at how many times they had to run him over.
Right. So here's the deal. Like, the only thing I can fault Gibson for this is they've been not very forthcoming with the truth in terms of what these guitars actually were, because according to them, these guitars were damaged, and nobody would have wanted them. That was in their official press release.
Okay, now here's the thing you can't see on a video, because we'll talk about that. So let's say I've got a bunch of guitars I had to buy back. We know we're going to destroy them, right? Now, tell me nobody in any company has ever done this. You get a bunch of crap in. You're supposed to get it destroyed. You stick it in a non-air conditioned room, right? These were probably sitting literally in a closet.
It's possible.
All right? And now they're sitting there. Nobody's doing anything to them. 8 years. Imagine. Guitar sitting there, 8 years, never got touched, sitting in a closet.
I can't. I mean, just from the look of these don't look like they've been sitting in a closet 8 years. These look like they were in a climate-controlled warehouse,
sitting in stack somewhere. Yeah, they were probably just stacked up. They probably, I'm sure they all
their
were
shipping boxes.
Up.
They were probably in their shipping boxes, but that's besides the point. Because they probably just brought them in, scanned them, and threw them over there. They probably didn't actually pull them out of the boxes until they went to destroy them, just so they could verify that the guitars were there.
Exactly. And then for everyone to get shipped out, they would have to QC them. And then even though somebody said, oh, I'm just buying it for charity, I won't do anything. And then somebody gets it in. Look at this piece of crap Gibson put together.
Right.
God.
And so
now the people that have got them on Reverb, what are they going for? Like one was listed at $9,000.
These collectors are putting them up for $9,000. They're going for $2,000, $2 to $3.
Yeah.
You can see sold listings on Reverb. If you didn't know that, you should check that feature out because it's great. And it's something that Reverb should have had from the beginning. I think they've been playing games for a long time, so they finally added that. That's a great thing. So here they weren't entirely forthcoming about the situation. Yes, I get it. We can play games and we can pretend like they shouldn't be transparent about this. What they should say is these were the buybacks. They've been sitting in this warehouse for 7 years. We don't know the condition of these guitars, but we do know that they were costing us a lot of money to keep them in the warehouse. And we do know that we were not going to put the money forth to get these guitars sold. And we do know that the development of updates and things for these guitars was not going to happen. And so therefore, from our perspective, it was easier for us to write these off and not deal with them anymore. And I think that would be amicable from a business perspective. I think a lot of people who buy Gibson would understand that conversation a lot more than, oh, these guitars were broken, and so that we do with what we do, all of our broken or non-functional guitars and destroy them. I saw a video on Schnobeltone's Instagram that somebody forwarded me, and they're breaking headstocks off and then bandsawing 135s. And apparently this is from the Memphis facility, which is the same place where these guitars came from. But people need to understand, that's how all of these companies do this. If the guitar does not meet their quality control spec, they don't factory second it and ship it out to somebody and give it to the poor starving orphans, which, trust me, I definitely want to support those communities because I think that's a lot of our musical growth comes from lower income communities. I don't want to build this stereotype that like Fender doesn't do that, so you should buy a Fender. No, I guarantee you Fender saws guitars in half all the time. I guarantee you that PRS does it. I've seen PRS do it. And this is not the first time Gibson has done this to Firebird X's either. And that's what will frighten people. I had a conversation with a guy several years ago at this point talking about Gibson failures, and he's somehow connected with the company. And I forget exactly how it is, but basically he was in a Guitar Center and we were talking, and he said, I understand that we may have bandsawed a bunch of those recently. In other words, some of the buybacks had already been destroyed. So my guess is at some point they were just destroying the inventory that was coming back in. Maybe they kept a certain amount for whatever reason, and that may be the amount that was damaged and whatever, and they thrashed it. But they were cutting a lot of them up when they came in because they realized it was a flop.
All I can say is that there were 55 factory presets and 11 banks that you had to use a gear shift knob to access. It had controls for modulation, echo, reverb, compression, distortion, and EQ.
The controls on it were super well thought out.
Yes, I'm just saying, on the guitar. And you could again, you had Bluetooth or I think the foot switch worked with Bluetooth. But anyway, you had to use these a combination of the switches. If you think a Jaguar is hard to understand, this thing was a mess. And if you turned the tuning knob, if you hit the tuning knob instead of your volume knob, you were going to throw your guitar out of tune.
So you want to get silly with this, Jim? Whole thing, right?
Hit me.
Like I got our silly proposition. I was reading an article where they were talking, and it came out, around the time that the Firebird X was being discontinued, right? And they were commenting about how big a flop it was, and their conversation was, this guitar is ahead of its time. That in the next 10 to 15 years, we will see a quality application of the same mindset that developed this thing, and that people will be interested. Now, I think that it already happened at that time. I think the Variax already existed, which was a big part of like the genesis of this idea, right? And this is like the Variax you'd actually want, was kind of what Gibson was going for. And I feel like they might be onto something, but I think there's a bigger suggestion here, right? So let's say you're Kurt Cobain of the next generation, right? So basically you're popular with whatever next generation of musicians finds these things in a pawn shop, right? Which is probably not going to happen at this point because this video has gone viral, so these things are going to be a ridiculous collector's item. But let's just say these things remain as unpopular as they are right now, and or as they were before.
Give it 6 months,
and somebody buys one of these, and it becomes their primary thing, and then suddenly all of a sudden everybody wants one, right? Gibson reissues it, but they reissue it with conventional electronics. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a possibility in this decade. I think in 20 years, Firebird X will be like an Explorer or a V. That not, kind of like a polymodern, like not like a super well-known one, but we haven't seen a reissue of the Marauder, which is kind of surprising to me. But I could definitely see this being like this thing in the background that people actually like, because it's not as kooky as like the Flying V2 or I guess the Marauder or some of those other guitars. Like the shape of it's actually kind of interesting, and I think for certain aesthetic reasons, like I wouldn't be opposed to playing this with conventional pickups.
Okay, so here's something that this is from an article written by Premier Guitar in 2011 when they got their hands on their first one. Okay, it says after it's definitely not a plug-and-play instrument. As I found out when I immediately, after taking down the case, I plugged it in and got no sound. After consulting the manual, I found out, this is the thing I was trying to tell you. I told you
When was the last time you read a manual for an electric guitar?
When I learned that the Firebird X had to be turned on. This is accomplished by pulling the gear shift knob, and it stays in this position until you turn the knob off by pushing it back down.
Let me get this straight.
Can you imagine if you accidentally turned your guitar off when you were playing? Let me finish. This is the first instant I saw it was seemingly endless series of manual consulting, and I think most people would need to keep the manual handy. Now here's the next thing. My unit's battery was DOA, so I put it on a charger and popped in another replacement when it came out of the package. Though Gibson says they're at least 2 hours from each battery, I only got about 20 minutes straight out of the second battery, which was slightly worrisome. Gibson says they're aware of this battery life concern and are working on improvements. When I fully charged the first battery, I got an hour out of it, although it seemed like the tuner wouldn't come on when I hit the first 5 minutes remaining.
Because it used a lot of juice.
The Firebird X won't work without a battery, so battery life is a serious concern. Can you imagine a 2-hour battery? People who have 3 or 4 hour gigs.
I know people who complain about EMGs, like, oh, my guitar battery only lasts like 24 days. Like,
yeah, or the people that are using Fluence pickups that are complaining because they're only good for like a month.
Year.
It's like, well, and the lesson here is that taking this guitar out, you have to stay on top of the battery charge and have spares at hand. So it's already a bucket of crap.
Yeah, I mean that
before you even get
honestly,
there.
that's the most compelling reason, and I want to make this very clear to everyone. This is why I'm saying this. This is the most compelling reason these guitars should not be donated to charity in the current condition they were in.
No.
If the battery life was 2 hours new, those batteries have been sitting for 6 or 7 years. They're not even workable now. Those batteries are probably completely toast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing that, the truth is that these were garbage and they meant to be garbage, and somebody might have actually written them off. And here's the reason that video may have had to be made. It was like, oops.
Yeah, these should have been destroyed already, and we just never got around to it.
Destroy them. Better get them out there. Better make a video before the IRS is on our ass.
Which makes it an even more like obvious caricature of what Gibson under Henry Juskowitz is really like, right? So we have this guitar that's untested. We do what is probably the worst press conference on earth. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. The announcement of the Firebird X on YouTube. I can remember watching it when it was new. Go watch that, right? And understand that this company with an untested product made thousands. They made probably 2,000 of these. And I mean, we're talking a $5,500 guitar, and they made 2,000 of them, and then they bought them all back, and people are wondering why the company's broke.
And things like this.
I honestly don't think it was their acquisition of Pioneer or all these things, because they tried to scapegoat everything. The mom and pops have ruined us and all this stuff. Remember that? He called out his dealers. Like, seriously? And you did this. You spent $4 or $5 million developing an instrument that nobody wanted. Could you have just spend $10,000 and do a focus group? You would have found out immediately that this was not what people wanted.
Nobody wanted it.
Nobody. To be innovative,
how many people do you?
He was trying to be Steve Jobs, and you could see it in that press conference. I'm going to give them what they need, not what they want.
Well, there's a big difference between
nobody needs a $5,500 guitar.
Yeah, nobody wants a $5,500 smartphone, but guess what? But
anyway, we're headed there.
They're coming. This is another point I want to make because you made a great point about the guitar thing and the focus group thing. Is that at that time that was a shift that some companies were making and other companies weren't, and that was bringing in people that were everyday people. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about Paul Reed Smith because before we skip, we're talking about the focus group thing.
Yep. Henry, to his credit, brought every celebrity guitar player he could muster to come see this thing under development. And I don't recall reading a single person saying or hearing or seeing a single person say that this was a good idea. All of them told him he was crazy and that this thing was not something that they wanted.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that. Well, again, whether you think that it was a good idea, you don't think it was a good idea. I don't think that selling them, even for charity, was a good idea. Maybe saying, "Hey, we'll smash one and put your name on it and send you the parts."
I think honestly, you know what they should have done, Jim? They should have said, "You send us $100, we'll smash it. We'll see that $100 goes to a charitable organization or something like that." Adopt a wreck.
We'll say this was Jim Woodard's, Darity. Smash.
Adopt a wreck.
Thanks, Jim.
Because honestly, you can get square bullets for $100, and they're going to be better than these things are for a beginner guitar.
Exactly.
They will be.
and that's why they're giving away 1,000 guitars, right? So they smashed about 1,000. They're giving $1,000 guitars away over the next.
I need to talk to Robert, because I know there's a lot of people in the group that feel very strongly about this, and I think we should use this as leverage to like get people to actually donate some money and put some money in that charity's hands to get musical instruments for people who can afford them.
I think it's a great idea.
So maybe the end of the year, we'll around Christmas, we'll do like a charity drive for him.
Yeah. Starting like October.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. If you're interested,
we'll do silly
post
things.
in the group, and we'll carry your stuff into
some
the
ideas?
future. So,
yeah, got some ideas. So I want to talk about Paul Reed Smith for a minute, and we're kind of shifting gears now. We've done the Fender Gibson thing. Good Lord, we beat them into the ground
with it.
So I went to see Firefall Orleans in America Friday night, and it was a great show. And so I had said on the podcast last week that I think that's a Paul Reed Smith, or maybe I told you inside. I think that's a Paul Reed Smith
right
that
after
he's
the
holding.
podcast.
But it was in the 70s. Yeah, but it was in the 70s that the show was taped. And so it was a blue PRS, plain blue.
He started his company,
and it was
I think it's
probably
79. 77,
Well, no,
but he wasn't calling it a company. He was just making guitars for people. And then in 79, he became Paul Reed Smith Company or whatever.
And it was 1985 that Paul Reed Smith became.
Oh, okay, so it took that long.
According to their site.
Long. No, I believe it. I believe it.
So that was one of the first PRSs in existence. So that would have been Paul and maybe two other people working on
if not just Paul himself. I mean, the first couple of guitars were just Paul himself.
And so I thought that was amazing. And he goes, yeah, the one I'm playing tonight, that's the same guitar.
And it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous
I was playing
piece,
back
man.
in 1979. It was awesome.
Did you ask which piece of furniture that Paul cut up from his mom to give it to?
No, but I do want to get him on the show. We've got another special guest. I haven't even told you about that's coming on.
We can have guests whenever we want. I mean, we honestly have got like people lined up that I don't talk to enough to like get them on the show.
We haven't asked about. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just had a guy while we were talking ask me about the show. So and we don't do this without you guys, right?
No.
I mean, this is great. We've got a great listenership, and it's a fantastic thing. We're going to be doing video soon.
Yeah, that's the plan. So we switched over. We were using Zoom for video podcasting.
Yep.
Now we switched over. We're using a new service called Squadcast. Squadcast has got a couple of limitations, but in terms of like what we get and how it operates, it fits our model better. We haven't done interviews with Squadcast yet. We do? I think we did Max with Squadcast. Did we not?
We did do Max's interview with Squadcast, and we're going to do another one.
Yeah, we're gonna be starting using it.
Weeks.
But the thing is, like right now, we can't do video. Like Jim and I were kind of moving towards doing that by the end of summer, but we're to the point where Squadcast actually doesn't support video podcasting yet, but they will, and they've already told me that it's probably going to be available in September or October. So we're looking to try and get there. And when that happens, then you can expect to see a little bit more video content on us. First, maybe we'll do one episode a month and test it. Right. We'll probably record them all, but
we need to test the
and then we'll start
and
doing every week will be a video episode. And
we'll be putting out videos of our own. But here's a David and I have been talking about what our format.
Once I finally buy one of those Zoom video cameras, because I just don't have the time to edit video and sync audio and do all that craziness.
And we have real jobs, But I will say that our next guest, I'm not going to say the person's name, but I will say that in a related story, I saw a fake Deering banjo in Guitar Center.
Fake Deering.
When I went to see that $40,000 guitar in the back. They also had a fake Deering banjo. You know what they weren't doing? Giving it to charity.
Yeah, they were. Were they taking care of business? If you know what I mean. Did it get stomped?
Not but yet. But I will say this that somebody's in some deep kimchi first, because the person that took it in, they way overpaid, obviously.
Oh
yeah. They thought they were getting a $1,700 banjo, and they got like a $17 banjo. It's that bad. But I was like, whoever took it in, it wasn't this store. It was another store. It got returned to my store. I say my store, the store locally. The store that took it in, whoever took it in, I got to tell you, I don't know what their eyesight was like. Because
sounds to me like they were friends with the seller. Kind of wink,
right,
wink.
because you may have well taken a Nike swoosh and stuck it on a pair of Reeboks and said, "Hey, these are Nikes."
Pumas.
Yeah, that was.
They were
Yeah,
Pumas.
it was that bad. It was that bad. I mean, it was not even a good attempt. I was like, "That's not endearing." And he goes, "Yeah, I know."
Can we take a second? I want to make an observation. We were talking about Nike, Puma, and all that stuff. Do you guys remember? Yep. Does anybody remember? Anybody who listens to the show, do you remember when Puma was like a Walmart brand? And then like all of a sudden Puma became like a desirable thing. Like, what happened? How did that happen?
I know. So a friend of mine had a pair of Pumas that were like house shoes. They were nice white shoes you wear in a house. Almost no tread really, but they're just for walking around the house. Because I need something for the hardwood floors, otherwise I'm going to slip and fall. So I go to order a pair, $56. What? For Pumas? Much less, not even outdoor Pumas. They're just house shoes. I'm like, oh, you know what you can do, and where they could take that thing. So anyway, so in my recent searches for stuff, I saw that Acoustasonic guitars are coming out with the exotic wood versions. I have yet to actually see an Acoustasonic or anybody use one or anybody really care that isn't either endorsed or
because both Jack White and Larkin Poe have used them. But Jack White, he's a Fender endorsee, and there have been a lot of Fender endorsees seen with these things in their hands. I think Fender was just sending them out for free to endorsees and being like, maybe we'll get a few people to pick them up in a picture.
I have not seen one person that actually paid.
Not that I would assume that.
I'm sure there's out there, but
maybe they paid the price. I don't know, but point being that this is clearly endorsement fodder. And you're talking about these exotic wood models, and I think it's almost like Fender's trying to. They really want to attract attention. So if you're not familiar with this sales model exists in another industry. Are you familiar with the car industry? Because I think everybody who listens to this podcast has either driven in a car, ridden in a car, or owns a car, and probably most of us own them. You go to GM, right? Like, what is GM known for? They make cheap U.S. vehicles, right? And I say domestic. They're not really even domestic anymore. They're produced in foreign countries in a lot of cases, and it's a whole thing. But here's the thing. They also produce one of the best-selling sports cars of all time. And definitely the best-selling domestic sports car that could be considered a supercar by some people, and that is the Corvette. Now, think about this for a minute. Why would a company that specializes in selling inexpensive economic vehicles, in the sense that, hey, you want a mid-sized car? We got the cheapest one on the block. Also produce one of the most expensive sports cars that you could buy that's made domestically. Now, not to say that, the Dodge Viper, when it was around, and some of these other vehicles weren't more expensive. My point is, the reason they did that was because they knew people would come in to look at the Corvette in the showroom and end up driving off with an Impala or driving off with the Aveo. You know what I mean? That was kind of the come-on deal, right? So this is the same thing in my mind. Fender's going to make a bunch of exotic wood Acoustasonics, and maybe some people will actually buy them. But the reality is, they're going to come in and they're going to look at the exotic wood one, and they're hoping they're going to pick up the other one and say, you know what, with the plug-in system for the acoustic electric part of it, these sound great, and I can just buy the regular one and it'll be cool, and it's only this much money compared to that much money. And I think they're kind of hoping to be like, okay, so there's the premium version, but you really don't need the premium version kind of deal, that you can get away with this less expensive non-luxury.
Oh my God! I just saw the price tag on that thing.
Yeah.
Are you kidding
How much,
me?
Jim?
So the Koa, folks, are you ready? $4,000 for the limited edition Acoustasonic Telecaster Koa.
How much does it weigh, Jim?
Hold on.
It's Koa. It weighs a lot.
It's Koa. It's going to weigh a ton. That's what I was going to say. Hold on. Because they got pre-order now, by the way. Pre-order now. It weighs. It doesn't say because they don't have any in stock. So the weight's
you
not
need to
on
look
here.
on Fender site.
Oh no,
I'll
I'm
Google
looking
it
on
real quick. You
Sweetwater.
talk.
All right. Now, the lesser expensive of these guitars is $3,299, and that's the Cocobolo.
Yeah.
Which I think the Cocobolo was introduced NAMM time frame. So that was one of the first. Well, now is it in stock yet? I don't know, but if you really want to spend $3,299 on arriving soon, notify me when stock.
Yeah, no weights
Let me see
listed
if
on
they've
these,
got a
by
weight
the
on
way,
it.
which is interesting.
Yeah, and you got to remember they also come with
They
a
don't
hard
usually
shell case.
list weights on guitars anymore, though. Like for new models.
Well, they do when they've got them in. When they've got
Yeah,
them
but
in
I mean,
stock,
if I go to Fender store, like they're not going to list that in the specs. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm thinking.
No, but if
I gotta be honest, these guitars
yeah.
look gorgeous. Get rid of the sound hole.
Oh,
Put a Telecaster neck pickup on it, and put a Telecaster bridge on it, and I'd buy this. If you got rid of the sound hole and made it an actual Telecaster, basically just make it a Telecaster and make it out of Koa and chamber it. Yep, be worth it. I would try.
I'm trying to find one.
I mean, I'm not going to buy this. I lie. And I say this in jest because obviously we've already had the discussion about people saying they would buy something and then they make it and then they're like, no, I'm not going to buy it. But I think that would be a compelling thing. I would be willing to try one, and if it's really really good and it suits me, then maybe. You know what I love about this, Jim?
I'm not spending $2,000 on an acoustic that doesn't sound great.
Right,
as an
which is
acoustic.
why I'm like, make it a good,
I'm going to buy
solid body guitar.
Yeah, I'm buying a Martin for less money. I just don't understand. I could buy a Taylor for the same money. I could buy a Martin for the same money.
This isn't for people who want an acoustic guitar. This is for people who want an acoustic electric guitar, and they really want the electric side of it more than they want the acoustic side of it. And that's what's strange about this product is it's like this market really doesn't exist, and I think this harkens back to Fender's Tonemaster thing right now. The market for this really doesn't exist. They think it does, or the market does exist. Like this hits so many markets, it's like a scattergun effect. I believe it was Tim Morley in the group who said that like it's like they shot for so many markets that they didn't actually satisfy the needs of any particular one, which is why this product is not compelling. You know what I mean? And probably won't be a huge success because of that. The Acoustasonic is very much the same thing as a Tonemaster in that way. And I think this is Fender. So Fender's made some sort of questionable decisions that we talked about on the show in the last couple of years. Some of them have been okay, and some of them have been less than okay. The Acoustasonic and the Tonemaster are the two ones that come to mind immediately. They're like, what? Huh? But the one that I think is sort of like on the fence is probably what they call it, the alternate reality series or whatever, because that was not aimed at us, right? Like that was aimed at a very specific market, which is probably mostly collectors. But that I think there is a market for it, right? Like there's a collector out there that goes, I would really like this. It'd be kind of cool if they did this sort of deal, and then they bought one. Right. But this doesn't look like it's like they're trying to make a market, which is the same thing that Henry Juskowitz tried to do. But I will say this, Fender is in a position right now to experiment, right? Like they can make some bad decisions and still keep their head above water. And so they can do some of this innovative stuff and try some things that don't work. And Fender's always done that. They've always made stuff that didn't work like the way they thought it was. That maybe they do a reissue every once in a while of, but it's not really their primary bread and butter. And so I think that's what this is. I think this and the Tonemaster are both them like saying, let's see what happens if we do this. And it'll run for 2 years and then it'll disappear. Now the Acoustasonic, they made a bigger commitment to this than 2 years. Like this product really does look like somebody put a lot of money into tooling and to figure out the process for this. And I want to point out something that if you haven't thought about this yet, the Fender Acoustasonic, the American Acoustasonic Telecaster Koa. Let me point out something to you that has not happened yet, but I think is going to happen. American Acoustasonic Telecaster Koa. What does that imply? That implies that you could have an American Acoustasonic Stratocaster, or you could have an American Acoustasonic Jazzmaster, or an American Acoustasonic Jaguar.
Or they're going to start pumping these things overseas.
Yeah, and I think that's what did the Silver Sky SE actually happen? I think it did.
No, I know they were talking about it. That they were saying.
I think they actually
that they were,
did it because there was something the other day. Yeah, it's not out yet, but it's coming. And I'll tell you why I think that that's the case.
I heard something from a
John Mayer himself has been teasing a new guitar on his Instagram. And
right.
What's the logical next step, and what's everybody been asking since day one with this? The first question I had when I saw this thing was like, when are they going to do the SE version?
When's the SE version?
Because
I asked it at the
and I heard people
year.
asking it at GearFest. I saw somebody walk up to PRS and say, "When are we going to get a Silver Sky SE?" Yep. So I know it. Look, it's coming. It may not be here yet, but it's definitely going to be here. And I have a very strong feeling that the guitar he's been teasing on his Instagram is going to be the SE Silver Sky. If it hasn't already been announced, and it may have already been announced, and I'm just slow to actually like follow up on things that have been said.
Well, I was just on their page. I didn't see anything on the SE side.
Yeah, there's nothing in the SE Signature series that's any different. So maybe this is going to be soon, like because they still got the 2019 models
the
up
Zebras.
For the SE stuff.
Yep.
I have a feeling they're going to start announcing the 2020 in November-ish. I don't know what their release cycle looks like, but this is the thing. Like we talk about a lot of gear on this show, and Jim and I are not gear experts. We talk from a perspective of like, how do we feel about this? Because like that Tonemaster thing, that whole thing is purely based on the fact that Jim and I are like, look at this and going, this doesn't really make sense to us. Like why? And so therefore,
and we represent the average player that's going to sit there and go.
I mean, and obviously we saw that there was some dissension in the group. Some people agreed, some people disagreed. But I think everybody kind of understood that, there's valid points to both sides, and like only time will tell what's actually going to happen with this stuff. But it's definitely like there's enough controversy there that people are talking, and maybe that's what these companies want when they come up with a controversial product like a Tonemaster or an Acoustasonic. Is like they really want to get people talking. Now, I've heard somebody brought this up. I want to talk about this. I haven't actually looked at this, so this will be interesting. I'll explore it on the show. BC Rich is coming out again. So apparently they are having like a relaunch. And I think this is something that brewed up at NAMM. Somebody pointed this out to me, so I don't know. I may be talking out my butt on this. But their website right now, if you go to their website, it's sign up for their mailing list and a picture of an amazing looking Warlock with a spalted maple top and Ivoroid inlay. Now, Ivoroid binding with a black binding on the outside edge. It has I think a 50th anniversary thing on the fretboard. So they're going to reinvent themselves. That's basically what they're announcing. So I don't know what we're going to see out of BC Rich. It's a company that I think there's definitely some nostalgia for, especially from the metal community. Obviously, there's some other people that have used BC Riches over the years as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the second coming of BC Rich be very interesting. They did make some conventional guitars that were pretty cool too, like the Gunslinger. So I'm excited. Like I would like to see another contender for that market.
You know what I'd like? Yeah. What I'd love to see, because BC Riches, when I was a kid, BC Riches were
people were looking at them like, whoa,
they really were.
What are your complaints about BC Rich though?
My complaint when I played one was really heavy.
What if they chamber them?
That's what I'm wondering, because that was my only real complaint. I loved playing when I played a Rich Bitch.
I like the Mockingbird.
Right? I think it was
the Mockingbird is my jam.
And the Mockingbird was my favorite. That was a beautiful guitar. Who played a Mockingbird that I was a big follower of Rick
yeah.
Derringer. And I got to tell you, the Mockingbird was so sweet.
Bitches are so heavy.
Didn't they have one called the Eagle?
Yeah, I think they did.
I know,
Yeah,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I was looking at. Well, I went to go look at the body because I'm like, which one is it again? Oh my gosh, they're so heavy.
Yep. Oh yeah,
it's like, why don't I just attach? Why don't I just take 2 cinder blocks, put them on my strap?
That was my complaint about the guitar. Otherwise, the guitar.
Oh yeah, no, great tone wood
Um,
selection. It had every electronic option you could possibly think of. Some of them were 10 strings, so they had that going for them. But my whole point is we don't really have great metal guitar companies today in the same way that we used to, right? So
right.
Most of the metal bands I see are playing like Comparison, or they're playing Ibanez, or they're playing. Some people are playing Charvel. There's a lot of Jacksons still out there, LTDs, ESPs. That's what I see a lot of predominantly, which is like the same companies we had like 10 years ago. There are some PC Riches out there, but they're usually like older ones that people have and use in the studio or whatever. But why I think it's important that we start looking at companies like this is because our nostalgia right now is so focused on Fender. I don't know if anybody's like really kind of paying attention to the community, but the reason why Gibson is taking so much flack is because everybody's in Fender's pocket right now. And that's just the way of the world. Like the music that's coming out today that people are really into is heavily driven by Fender. Actually, I was having a conversation with Nick. He went to go see what's the guy's name? I've talked about him on the show before.
Oh, not Bonamassa. He was
because Bonamassa is a Gibson guy most of the time.
Yeah, this is a Fender guy. No, this is a Gibson guy. It's
Gary Clark Jr. Gary Clark Jr.
Come on. Yes, Gary Clark
He's
Jr.
got like a great name, but it's really hard to remember for me.
Yeah, and he's got that SG, right?
So he's had a bunch of signatures. He had a signature Casino, which I was corrected. I thought it was an Epiphone 335 Dot that he had as a signature. That was like a higher end version of it. But no, he had it was a Casino. And he's played a lot of Gibson SGs. He has one custom shop Stratocaster that I've seen him with. He's got that 3 pickup SG custom looking thing, and then he's got there's another signature Gibson he has out right now too. And I think there are other players that are kind of like him that are out there, like Joe Bonamassa is another good example. But I don't think there's like a ton of torchbearers for Gibson right now. I think you're more apt if you're to turn on the TV, you see somebody like Jack White playing like a Fender or playing a EVH, which is really quite odd to me. But that's that. I made the comment, we were talking about the Acoustasonic, and Nick said, hey, Jack White was playing the Acoustasonic. Jack White used to play Airlines, okay? And he talked about wanting to fight the guitar, and then all of a sudden he gets to deal with Fender, and the next guitar you see him with is an EVH. What a liar!
Gretsch before that.
What a liar!
Yeah, he's so
I'm
full
sorry,
of crap.
but if he was come on the show, I'll have a conversation.
Every
with him.
bit of.
But I want to make it very clear. Poser. I'm hardcore because I play these junky guitars that nobody wants, because that's what they were before Jack White got a hold of them. And then all of a sudden, it's like, no, EVH is a thing. Like, I don't know why I fought my guitars all these years. That was kind of silly of me. And like, dude, come on. Drop the act. You're a guitar player just like everybody else. And you like gear. It's fine. And I'll bet you your Airlines didn't play that bad. I bet you had the good ones that were really set up really well for you. And you were thrilled with what you had. And you know what? That's fine.
That's right.
Don't make out like you're some rough kid that, never had anything, and like I understand his background. Like he was worked for a furniture repair company and all this stuff. But
yeah, and he was in Detroit, right?
Somewhere like that. But point is, like, I have this guitar that's a piece of junk, and I like it because it's a piece of junk. But then you don't really prefer pieces of junk. And I remember when he got his first like custom built guitar where he had the microphone in it, whatever. And that was such a big deal too. And I was like, wait a minute. The guy that plays bad Airlines went and had a guitar custom built and then is going to pretend like it plays like junk? I just don't buy it. Like, that's not what's going on here. Whatever. That's his musical journey. He can go on it. He can look however he wants to look. But I'm just saying that a lot of this stuff is image driven. and is money driven behind the scenes. We should do a whole episode talking about endorsement deals and how that's become bread and butter for so many of these like A-list musicians.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll stick on a future topic, but the point is that Dimebag Darrell based a lot of his gear decisions, whether you like to believe it or not, on where that check was coming from, which is why he went back and forth with Dean, and it was Dean and Washburn. That's why he went back and forth with Washburn on amps and all these other companies, because he wanted the best deal he was going to get financially. And you know what? More power to him. You should try to make money with your success in an industry, but not at the expense of your reputation.
Exactly.
So, BC Rich, I hope they come back. We need more metal guitars, especially if Dean goes under, which I don't think is going to happen. But
no. But you know what's funny about BC Rich is when BC Rich came about, they were, I guess, they were on the borderline because what's his name? The guy that did Frankenstein.
They were like way more. They were like Gibson ostentatious, but like taken to the next level.
Right. But they weren't really made with metal players in mind.
They were made with like I would almost say like
Johnny Winter,
like psychedelic blues, like hard rock. Maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't even think metal had happened yet when Bernie was making these things. So
no. They kind of got into the metal community, I think, because you could tune the crap out of those things.
Yeah, well, I think it's that. I think they were probably cheaply available in pawn shops for a while. I don't think they had a.
Yep.
I mean, they did have a big following when they were new, but once the company got sold, and it's been in several different hands, and I don't know who actually owns them right now. Look, there's a lot of what I call mega corporations that own like 5 different companies, and that's actually what Dean is going through right now. Like they're owned by, and you can tell who made good designs but was bad business people because they don't own their companies anymore, right? In most cases, so there's Grover Jackson, right? He's doing fine, but there's other people like Wayne Charvel who sold Charvel to Grover Jackson, and basically now has his own guitar company again because he realized like that was kind of a mistake. I couldn't keep up with demand, but what I should have done was try to figure out a way to make that work instead of selling the company and then having it basically become its own thing. And Jackson is no longer owned by Grover Jackson. It's owned by Fender, and all these different companies have changed hands, but that doesn't mean their product's bad. Like I would buy a Charvel today. I would rather buy a Wayne.
Yeah.
But I think that some of that heritage gets lost by the fact that they're owned by these other companies that really didn't understand what drove them initially. And the classic example of that, to bring it all back around, is Fender during the CBS years, who did not get what they were actually about. And just like the linear amplification thing where they said, oh, we're going to make our twins. All we're going to do is make them louder and cleaner. That's during the 80s. Just let that sink in for a minute. Up until like 78 to 83 when Paul Revere came in, we're going to make louder, cleaner amps. At the height of like bands like Led Zeppelin and moving into like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest era, we're going to make louder, cleaner amps. Who were they selling to? Who? I mean, country players liked them, but that was it, right? And even at that time, I knew, or I didn't know, but I'm looking back in retrospect because I'm only 34 years old. Many of the players were going to the Ernie Ball Music Man series of amps.
Yeah,
they were Fender designed. It was more what they were looking for than what Fender itself was doing.
There were a lot of people running from Fender basses to the Ernie Ball bass designs because, again, like you said, they were doing what Fender wasn't doing because they had Leo Fender. They had the person behind it. And then when Leo Fender went to GNL, once again, people followed him because now they had Fullerton and Fender
So
working together again.
I want to do our first value segment as we close out the show today. I don't have it sitting in front of me. It's in a drawer in my room. But I have a little Ibanez pedal that so my first distortion pedal, I went in, I'll tell you the story and then I'll explain why I still like the pedal. I went into the Guitar Center like everybody does when they get their first, like I want to get my first pedal, right? I was in a unique position, right? So the guy at the guitar store convinced my parents to buy me a keyboard amp for my guitar because it made it more palatable for them to buy me a guitar, right? Because then my mom could play her keyboards through it, and I could play my guitar through it. Now, my first question, because I already knew this, right? Like I was smart enough to kind of understand this, and I had friends that played guitar, so I'm like, how do I get distortion? Because the keyboard amp is clean, right? So here's the funny part, right? So in the store, the guy goes, well, you can turn it all the way up. That'll distort it. And he did this, right? As he was demonstrating, and it sounded horrendous. But he's like, well, you'll have to play around with the controls to get it to work the way you want it. And I'm like, okay. So naturally, I'm not going to be able to turn it up at home like that. That's craziness. So I find myself like almost immediately, like, I got to get overdrive. I got to get like a distortion pedal, or I got to get grit, right? Like that's my whole thing. I didn't really know there was a difference between overdrive and distortion and fuzz and like all these different things. I was under the impression that my first pedal was a multi-effects unit, the 5052. But I think I actually got my first single effect before I got that. Because I remember asking my guitar teacher, like, what do I do to write up my sound? Like, how do I get that? I've heard some people cut their speakers and like that kind of thing. He's like, no. So he takes me to the back of the music store where I was taking lessons, and he says, they had like a little glass display case. They had little Boss pedals. He says, look, almost everybody has a couple pedals. Like, you'll probably want one of these and one of these and one of these. And like, you really don't need a whole lot more than that. But he's like, or you could buy a multi-effect, and they had one. And he goes, and that would work for you too. And he's like, that's going to get you basically what you need to learn with, right? So, I was poor, and because I was a kid, I was like, I was 16, 17 years old. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to get the money for all this. So I saved up and had about $60 together. I figure, store price going to be $50, right? So I go to Guitar Center, and they have, the Boss wall of pedals, and I can remember plugging into all of the distortions that were there. I plugged into DS1, which I liked. I liked the DS1, right? I liked the Super Overdrive, but I thought the Super Overdrive didn't have enough gain because what I was looking to do, I wanted to play metal, right? Which I didn't learn to do until like a year ago. Right? I mean, the things that happen to people. So I tried the DS1, which I have in my hand right now. I tried the Metal Zone, and like I would have bought the Metal Zone. I would have done what everybody did when they buys their first distortion pedal and bought a Metal Zone. But it was $95. And I was like, man, I can't, like, I could probably do it, but I'm like, $95 is a lot of money. So I was talking to the guy at the counter, and I'm like, I really like the Metal Zone. Like, what else do you recommend? He goes, Ibanez. He's like, go plug it into the Smash box. Oh. So I plugged into the Smash box, and I'm looking at the price. I'm like, $65. Like $65. And I'm like, well, it's plugged into this amp. Like, I don't know what's going to sound like through my amp at home. He's like, well, here, let me plug it into this other amp. And it's like clean platform. Vox AC30. All right.
Oh, well, yeah.
Hilarious. Just hilarious, like right? Because like now looking back at all this stuff, I'm like, this is just the most insane experience I could ever possibly imagine. So here I am in the Guitar Center, right? And I've been playing about 2 or 3 months, but I already knew chords, and I knew the pentatonic scale, and like I could passably get through like a blues thing. So it had to be more than 3 months. It was probably 6 months. But I was sitting there and I was like playing through this Vox and thinking like, this is really cool, but I think something missing. So I turned around and told the guy something. I'm not really super in love with the sound. The guy goes, oh, you got to wait for the amp to warm up. And I'm like, wait a minute. What? And he goes, oh, it's a tube amp. You need to wait for it to warm up. And I'm going, huh? Like I didn't even. This is how little I actually knew at this point. So I went home and I took my little like Sam Ash Brownsville amp that I actually had one at that point. I got a 10-inch. No, it was an 8-inch speaker. No, it was a 6.5. It was a 10-watt amp, right? 6.5-inch speaker that my parents bought me because we went on a trip and it had overdrive in it, right? But I was like, this is not going to be good enough for like, playing at home. It didn't really sound that great to me, but I was like, it's portable. So I get home and I'm like, well, that's a real guitar amp, right? Like maybe I need to wait for it to warm up. And Jim, I actually flipped the thing around to look and see what was in the back of it. Cause I'm like, I read an article in one of the guitar magazines, like right after I went to the music store, that said something about like breaking tubes because you store your pedals in the back of your amp. And so I flipped this thing around and I'm like, oh, there's no broken glass. Oh, thank you. And it took me probably 2 weeks to realize like there was a thing called solid state amplification, and that's what this was. So it's just like hilarity, right? I buy the Smashbox because it's $65. I have that pedal for 4 or 5 years. It is my, if I need a distortion, get out the Smashbox. Now, what's cool about this pedal is it's the Tone Lock 7 Series Ibanez pedal. So the gray box with they have a button on them that actually pops the top up of the pedal like on a Boss circuit. And then you put your battery in there. And so some of the criticisms of this design, of course, of the switch is pretty awful and it fails a lot. But for if you got a switching system, these are great because you can just plug them and they'll be automatically on, and you just turn on off the switching system. You wire the thing to be permanently on. Mine, the one I have now, works pretty well. The switch is a little wonky. I have to press it a little bit harder, but otherwise it works fine. It's got 4 knobs, right? So it's got volume, gain, bass, and treble. Which immediately having a two-band EQ for a distortion pedal, it's almost a requirement because if you want to tighten up the sound, you need a bass control, right? The treble control, you have to have that on everything. As far as I'm concerned, a tone control should just be a treble control. So
exactly.
The cool part about it has a built-in noise gate, right? So I was like, I was playing around with it a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, built-in noise gate. Like, I don't remember this being all that good. But you know what? For the amount of gain that this pedal puts out, you have to have it because it gets like that. Yep. It gets almost to Metal Zone territory with the gain. And what's cool about it is, I'll tell 2 stories, but it sounds like 90s metal, right? Like 90s grunge, like really heavy distorted rock, like Fear Factory kind of sounds and stuff like that. All the way down to like Soundgarden and that kind of stuff. It sounds like it's sort of like a tightened up Big Muff. I actually think it sounds a lot like a metal muff with the bass isn't as like tight or and you can't dial it as metal as a metal muff.
Right.
But they're a cool pedal. There's a lot of mods for these pedals, and I haven't explored that. I thought about having my modded. There's a local guy, Alchemy Audio, is up on the north side, and I can take it up there, and they have mods, and they'll
see if Walmar's
I don't know if
doing
he does the mod. Well, I've got his book, and they talk about mods for this thing in it, so I could do my own.
He does his own mods.
If I really wanted to.
I mean, he's for getting
so
him
here's
to
the
do it,
thing.
it's pretty
I
cheap.
bought this pedal for
pretty
$65, right? Back in probably 2004, 2005. And these pedals right now, you can get them for like between $40, like for like $40, right? And it's better than a DoD grunge. It's definitely better than a DoD death metal. It's just like it's very different than those pedals, but it's for that kind of like higher gain thing. I would prefer using this to a DS1. And I've thought multiple times about putting this on a board just as like a freak out pedal that nobody would really believe you're playing with, Yeah. And getting away with it. Because you see these cheap Ibanez pedals and you're like, oh, that's got to sound like trash. It sounds really good. I would highly recommend if you're looking for something super budget cheap that does that, $90 or $90, $40, not $90 like a Metal Zone. Or Metal Zones are what? They're like $50 used, $55 used. So this is a little bit cheaper than that.
Yeah.
And it's different. So, what I like about it, you get muscular gain out of it. So if you ever did the palm mute thing and like you don't feel like there's enough guts to it, this does that really well. The low end chunk that comes out of it's really good, and you can dial the bass up to get like super metal if you want to, and it gets pretty gnarly scooped. I sent one of these. I bought one of these and sent it to 60 Cycle Hum for them to demo on their. They were doing the Gas and Go demos. So the SM7 that's on there. Yeah. Actually, the cool part about this is that, somebody was out of their luck and they were looking for gear. So I knew they weren't going to use it. I knew what kind of music they played, but I was like, I'm going to send this to them and they can flip this, and they'll get gear out of it. So I never touched the pedal I bought, but I kind of was like. At that point, I sold mine a long time ago. I sold to my guitar teacher, and then he sold to somebody else or whatever. And I decided I was going to buy another one. So the one I have is actually my second. And I was totally nostalgic when I bought it, unashamedly, unabashedly, and I'd buy another one.
Yep.
So that's your first value gear segment. If you're interested, check out the Ibanez Smashbox SM7. You can get them for,
What are the... I was going to say, what are they going for now?
$50. I mean, I've seen them as low as 20. But
wow.
That's like a deal, kind of deal. You might find one for 20, but I wouldn't hold out for it. Put them in your reverb feed. If you come across one or you see one in a store or something, just try it out. Like, you might like it. If you're into that genre of music, like that late 90s grunge thing, it's a really cool pedal for that. And I think it straddles firmly between death metal and grunge, the DoD pedals, and like the what's the metal zone, right? It's not like super lo-fi like the HM2 is, which that's another pedal. I don't consider that a value pedal. You're going to pay if you buy one of those used, which I may or may not be in the market for one of those, but I just want to have one around because it's a pedal that people are like seeking now. But I don't know. I have some other stuff that I want to talk about in value thing. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the value segment once a month, and I think we're going to do it on the first episode of that month. So I'm just going to try to like pick something every month that I feel is pretty strong. I have a couple of picks already. There may be an amp coming my way that's going to be a feature in that. A lot of it's going to be nostalgia driven stuff that I had that like in some cases I sold because I was an idiot. And I didn't realize what I had, like in terms of how usable it was, and things that I'm nostalgic about for that reason. And then there will probably be some stuff that's like modern things that you can go to the store right now and buy brand new that are steals the deal. And they exist. Right. I mean, there's a lot of Joyo stuff out there. So, I don't think we'll be hurting for anything in this segment. If you have something you want to recommend, reach out to us.
Yep. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I got a great deal on this amp, but that's not something you would be able to.
But you know
find
what?
On a daily basis.
Value segment, like maybe you do the next one. We'll talk about the amp. I mean, you've already talked about in this episode. Everybody knows you got a Cyber Deluxe, but that's a means to an end for Jim, and some show listeners probably already know where this is headed. But
it's a very, very short term.
Hopefully, as short term as you can make it, but. One last thing before we get out of here. I'm selling my Kiesel probably, and this is I'm like really upset about it because I love that guitar, but I have carpal tunnel now. I mean I can't even not admit it. If I play the guitar for an hour or two, even if I switch back to my other guitar, by the afternoon I have sharp pain in my wrist. And that's even if I put it down for a couple hours and, that whole thing. So I've been wearing a wrist brace. Last night I did a video in the group and I was playing my GNL and like I had no pain playing it. And it was a great experience. And
your experience is not unlike what a lot of people.
I have small fingers. I probably should have known better. And I kind of knew like there was potential for this to happen when I bought my Kiesel. I really want to keep it, but it doesn't make a lot of economic sense for me to keep what is essentially a $1,600 guitar that I'm not going to play, during a 2-hour show.
Right. Well, that's the thing. So a lot of people like when I was playing a 7-string, I played it for 1 or 2 songs a night. And that was in a 3-hour show. So you can imagine I played it for a grand total of 7 minutes.
There's a song I posted the tab for in the group.
On the outside.
Which is also the song that I posted in the group and was getting feedback about. you can see that my playing style is not gonna bode well for somebody with short fingers. And I have 4 different ways to play the same thing, whether it's standard or in B, in typical 7-string tuning. So what I found that works really well is I just use the I go into the Kemper and I down tune it. I set it down to 5 half steps, and so I tune down to B essentially. And it's a little clunky because you can obviously hear the acoustic sound of the guitar playing against that, and it can be annoying if your guitar is not loud enough. The electric signal is not loud enough. So it's annoying, but for the songs that I've written using B already, like, I think I can get away with this. So the plan is I'm going to have a lot of money when I sell this Kiesel. I have the money that I got from the SG, and I have the money that I'm going to get from the Kiesel, which should give me well into almost $3,000. And I'm just going to go, because I have 6-string guitars that I like. I have my S500. That's pride and joy. The only thing I don't like about it is it's not stainless steel frets. I have contemplated getting it refretted. And so that may be something that happens in the future. But what I really want to do is I think I'm going to get a war moth. I'm looking at some other guitars. I'm looking at the Ernie Ball Music Man Cutlass. I like the flame maple, the roasted flame maple. I know some people are kind of like iffy on the flame thing, or the roast thing, but I like the guitars that I played from them, and it's kind of up my alley. I would get the Humbucker single. I just don't know that it's going to do the heavier music that I'm into, which may prevent me from buying one. And another thing is, like, those are $2,000, and honestly, it's Strat appointments for $2,000. It almost doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that regard. And here's the kicker: everybody knows I like fuzz pedals. It has a built-in buffer. That's going to be a problem. Whether people like to admit it or not, that's going to be a problem. So I'm kind of thinking the Warmoth might be the better way to go. I get my own choice of wood selection. It's going to be well under $2,000. And even though it's not going to have a lot of resale value, I'm not buying this to resell it. It's a 6-string, and it'll be built to my spec. There's no reason for me to sell this thing, unless I get hard up for money or whatever. And I got other guitars I can sell before I get there. So,
so one thing I did when I was playing in a lower tuning to get around the need for that is you can now, of course, you still have to have another guitar, but a baritone is another option.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything with an extended scale. I have short fingers.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of the baritones is that even though it's an extended scale, it is a longer scale. The spacing on the frets and the open positions aren't as bad as you might think.
I've played a 27.5-inch 7-string. No way. No way.
So then, you got you got really small fingers. How much?
Yeah, they're like, they're ridiculous. They're probably 2.5 inches long. It's silly.
That's something that
you would never believe that somebody with fingers as short as I do plays like I do.
I have the arm width and the finger length of someone that's much, much taller than I am.
Yeah, they're very short.
Because I'm 5'7".
You know what they say about short fingers?
Wingspan's only supposed to be.
You know what they say about short fingers,
short
right?
Toes.
Short
you wear
fingers,
small fingers.
practical guitarists.
Gloves. You have to play practically. And that's the exact opposite. I like a beefier neck. I like a thing. But I can tell you this: I tried playing a 6-string bass for a while, and that was not my thing.
That's called the Widowmaker.
Like this than this, and I need to rap a little bit.
That makes children into adults.
Yes, it does. It's a hard sell and a hard press thing. But I did play a baritone guitar. I actually didn't mind a baritone guitar, but I don't think I'd buy one. Luckily, it was a friend's, and I used theirs. But I don't think I'd buy a baritone. It's the same with the 6-string. I didn't buy the 7-string. Sorry, I didn't buy it. It was a friend's. It was a Jackson 7-string.
That Jackson 7-string with the extended scale that Kish has. Yeah, but it's 27 or 27.5.
Yep.
And it's a really fun guitar. But it is not something I would own.
I'm still interested in trying out the Fender Alternate Reality 66. So that's still in my.
All right,
but there's something else that's like right now.
Jim, I have to stop you. because we get in trouble if we go over an hour and 45.
And if I say the word Kemper. Did
We're
somebody
way
say
over.
Kemper?
Kemper?
Yeah. Kemper?
Kemper.
What
How
about
many
Kemper?
Kempers were in that picture? There's
Kemper?
1 Kemper, 2 Kemper, 3 Kemper, 4 Kemper, 5 Kemper, 6 Kemper.
6 Kempers.
There were 6 Kempers. 6 Kempers.
Holy
You know?
One
And the
Kemper,
funny, so what you
Kempers.
guys need to know about that comment in the group, I posted this picture. There's 6 rack-mounted Kempers, right? And Jim goes, how many guitars do they have? Because it was at church, right? He's like, how many guitars do they have? And I'm like, 1. And he just started cracking up. Yeah.
We don't really know how many.
No,
but it was
we don't
pretty
know.
funny.
It's probably
It was
1.
pretty
You know, but
Can you imagine if it's just one guy? But he's like, I don't want to have to change any. You know what? I'm
yeah,
just going
it's
to buy
all
a
one
bunch of Kempers
He's got one
instead
preset,
of buying.
one preset per Kemper, and he's got a switching system on the floor.
Instead of, I don't want to spend the money on that Kemper floorboard.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he just buys.
All right, I've been David,
I've been Jim.
and tonight we have been very practical guitarists.
Thank you.
Good night.